this episode of Elevate FCS, where we share trends, tips, and tools from the FCS industry to help you, our FCS teachers, and your students find success. On each episode this year, we'll be featuring a guest speaker from an area of the FCS industry to learn about different career opportunities, resources for teachers, and industry trends. In today's episode, we're joined by Karen Schur, who is the Director of Teacher Recruitment at the California Department of Education. Today, we're excited to talk all about the paths to becoming a teacher in California, how to start preparing in high school for an amazing career, and current trends in education. Welcome, Karen, and thank you so much for being here with us today to share your passion and knowledge about education. I'll have you start by sharing a little bit about your professional background and your current role with the California Department of Education.
Oh, well, thank you. It's so nice to be here. Thank you for having me and for highlighting the California Department of Education and the work that we're doing to support future educators in the state of California. I have been a classroom teacher for over 30 years, mostly middle school language arts, but I've also taught high school and also have been an adjunct professor at several different colleges where I've taught English methods and reading strategies and all kinds of things to adults as well. And I also serve as a trustee for the Oxnard Union High School District, and I'm in my third term and really proud of the work that we've done with regard to recruiting and retaining a highly qualified teaching workforce in our own school district.
And then what is the work that you get to do now with the California Department of Education?
I serve as a visiting educator to the California Department of Education in my role as Director of Teacher Recruitment. And my job is to help find ways for everyone who would like to become a teacher or a mental health school counselor find their way into classrooms and school communities in the state of California. The CDE does not place teachers directly or hire teachers directly, but I provide resources to anyone reaching out to the CDE for information. So happy to provide that service to anyone out there looking for tips and tricks and pathways to education professions.
So can you start by giving us just the basic rundown of the process of becoming a teacher in California?
Well, the good news is that there are lots of different ways to becoming a teacher in California. You can do a traditional 4-year route at any college, virtual or in person, that offers credential programs. There are various credentials that are offered. You can go to community college first. Many teachers and school professionals start at community colleges and then transfer to a credential program. Once you're in a credential program, there are various pathways to earning your credential. You can, as a student teacher, you can serve as an apprentice, an intern, or a resident, and those are different student teaching models that offer students the opportunity to earn money while they're student teaching. So that's one of the things we're working hard on, is helping future educators to break down those barriers with regard to financial difficulties. And many of the funds that are out there can be braided with scholarships, other scholarships, and loans, student loans. It's really our goal to just be a helper. And you can become a teacher also as a second career. If you hold a bachelor's degree, you can earn a credential. It would be a 1-year program, that credential year that you would add on. And also in many cases that would serve as a master's degree as well. So you get to achieve both of those goals at once. And you can also, as a professional, in certain fields, you can enter the profession through a CTE credential, which is a career technical education credential, and that requires specific professional work experience that you would bring to a classroom and is a little bit different than your average teaching credential. So lots of different pathways and opportunities for anyone out there who'd like to pursue a field in teaching.
Definitely. There are so many ways to get into teaching. Wherever you're coming from, there's a path for you to get there, to achieve your goals.
Absolutely.
How many people on average per year are obtaining their teaching credentials in California?
Well, that number I don't have, but what I can tell you is that the CTC, along with many other state agencies, 10 state agencies and institutions that represent the State Educator Workforce Collaborative, have developed 17 plus tools and resources to support and improve access and affordability to high quality teacher preparation. One of those resources that's new is the CTC's Educator Career Counseling page that has been up and running since March of 2025. So it's very new. And since that has been up and running, over 123,000 people have sought access through that career counseling page, and over 4,800 individuals have been assisted by the CTC's education career counselors. And what's really interesting about that number, or those numbers, is that over 32% of those individuals that visited the career counseling website were 35 years or older and interested in switching careers to a teaching career. So really, I think especially impacted by the passing of the Social Security Fairness Act, which would allow people to come into the profession without having to give up their well-earned Social Security benefits. That will allow more working professionals to perhaps enter the field as a second or third career.
I can definitely see the trends of having this be a second or third career, but it seems like for our students in high school now, since we have so many, all of the state and education pathways, and I feel education pathways are really growing right now, for them thinking of becoming a teacher now, is where can they start while they're still in high school to be prepared? Are there any certifications or entry-level jobs that they should think about while they're still enrolled in high school so they can be our best teachers in a few years?
Yes. Absolutely. Well, and you mentioned one of the most exciting things that's happening with regard to high school students is our academies and pathways. So CTE teaching credentials is a different thing than a CTE pathway or program. So a career technical education credential is what an adult would seek as a professional seeking a credential in that certain profession. But for high school students, career technical education are those academies and pathways that are designed for specific passions and interests that students have while they're in high school. Education being one of them. And so currently, this number is not current. It's based on 2019 CalPADS data, because post-COVID, a lot of these numbers have been hard to capture. But in 2019, at the time, there were over 30,000 high school students that were registered in an education pathway or an academy. And pathways are 2-year programs, academies are 3-year programs, and their high school experience is based on a series of classes and achievements that they must complete in order to obtain that credential on their diploma. When they have that credential on their diploma, it means various things to different organizations or different institutions, right? But certainly when you're applying for college, having that kind of certification or stamp, so to speak, on your transcripts is something that makes you stand out when looking at it, when an admissions officer is looking at your transcripts, right? Now, we're working really hard on building programs that will allow students like some kind of leg up that have graduated from an academy or pathway. Riverside is a really exciting example where they have partnered with CSU to offer students that graduate CSU ready with meeting the requirements for admission to a guaranteed entry into any CSU program in the state, with I think a couple of exceptions, probably Long Beach and San Diego. So it's brand new. Don't quote me on the exact schools, but it is a broad CSU agreement and really exciting, and one that I hope will be modeled across the state. And then in Ventura County, ours is a little bit different. We at the Oxnard Union High School District, along with Ventura Unified and one or two others, we have partnered with Cal State Channel Islands to offer students who graduate here in Ventura County the same kind of guaranteed admissions if they meet the requirements, but it's specific to Cal State Channel Islands. And the teaching credential program is part of that. Not every CSU or UC offers a credential program, but most of them do. And then there are various online institutions that offer great opportunities for students to earn credentials. There's Reach University, National University, Western Governors University, and there are lots of ways, virtual or in person, for high school students and beyond to find their ways into a credential program.
You've shared so many resources that some of the local school districts are doing. Are there any resources the Department of Education has for students interested in becoming teachers?
Well, yes, we offer resources on our website. So if you were to Google CDE, how do I become a teacher, right? It would lead you to those resources. You can email teachinca.cde.ca.gov. And that email address is one that I respond to as well. So that is a resource that we're offering that would get you directly to me. And that is my job, is to provide opportunities for discussion online or through a phone call to help anyone interested in finding resources. When I spoke about the Workforce Collaborative and the CTC Education Counseling page, that was one of the things that have come out of this Workforce Collaborative. Another one is really exciting, and I am happy to share the links with you to all of these things as well, is something called the Roadmap to Teaching. When you go to that link, it gives you, you can personalize where you go depending on your experience or where you are in the credential process. There's information about teacher candidate funding scenarios, and that's information about residency, apprenticeships, internships, ways to earn money while you're doing your student teaching. There's information about teacher prep funding programs, and also a teacher candidate funding explorer, which is really exciting that it's sort of like a Google sheet where you can have all of that information at your disposal, where you can look through the different funding sources that can be braided with student loans and other scholarships. So that work was not ours at the CDE alone. That was, again, 10 state agencies that have come together to really work hard on developing a workforce that is reflective of our community.
I really like the personalized part, to see where, in my journey, I could go into this. Just knowing that there is someone at the Department of Ed whose job is just to help people become a teacher.
That's me.
And that's just so wonderful that we have this resource, and for more teachers and students to know that you're there just to help guide them to this amazing career.
Yeah, well, I think that's actually a really important point you just brought up, in that the CDE has never taken on recruitment before, not to my knowledge, because we don't hire teachers directly, right? So it's not really required of the CDE to have someone doing this work, but thanks to the bravery and leadership of our amazing state superintendent, Tony Thurmond, who really believes in this work and has devoted time and energy and efforts into legislation and programs and breaking down barriers and offering scholarships. And then my position is part of that. And it really was an intentional thing to bring someone into this position that was newly created, because they, meaning the CDE, really believe that it is important that we are here and available to help anyone who would like to become a teacher or a mental health school counselor. And I'm so proud to be doing this work and really excited to be doing this work, and grateful to Superintendent Thurmond, because not only am I doing this work, but I'm a teacher and I'm at the end, working toward the end of my career, and really hopeful that people will continue to want to be educators. Public education is the underpinning of our democracy, and teachers and school communities make every other profession possible. And it's a wonderful, joyous way to spend a career. And it's also a wonderful and joyous way to serve our country. And I think that that's a really important piece of it, that we as educators take the same oath of office that every other elected official, military member takes, to uphold and protect the Constitution of the United States of America against enemies, both foreign and domestic. And that is an oath we swear as we are becoming credentialed. It's an important piece, and even more important today.
Wonderful. You mentioned that since you're kind of at the end of your teaching career, where is the greatest need for teachers? Is there like a grade level or subject area? I know we talk a lot in FCS of our need for FCS teachers because we have a huge need for that, but where else the biggest needs our state is facing now and is going to be facing in the next, 10 years?
Yes, well, I mean, that is the question, right? We talk about teacher shortages in various ways. They can be locational, right? There are what we call deserts for educators, and there are also shortages with regard to program or credential, right? So it just depends on where you are and what you're looking to do. But the highest need for credentials is math, science, special ed, and also, art and music. And that is something that's really exciting. Right now, with the Proposition 28 passing, the taxpayers of the great state of California think that it's important for our students to have access and opportunities in art and music. And so that funding, every public school is given funding depending on their demographics and school size and all that. But 80% of those funds must be spent on educators. So, it's like you don't want to spend $1 million on tubas and then have nobody to teach that, like in the next, 5 years, the numbers that I've been hearing vary from needing 9,000 to 15,000 art and music teachers in the coming, years. So that's an exciting opportunity, especially for those that are seeking a second or third career and have some history with art and or music. And that includes computer programming and coding, graphic design, even those things are included. So it depends on the district and the programs that the community is driving. Those decisions are usually driven by what students are asking for. But it's really an exciting time for those individuals who would love to have a career teaching in the arts or music. So that's definitely a pathway forward as well.
Very cool. How do you see our changing technology impacting education, and how can our students who are pursuing a career in teaching be on top of it?
Oh my goodness. I mean, I think that educators meet students where they are every single day, all the time. And part of our job as educators, myself included, is to embrace technology in a way that is used to supplement our education, not supplant our education system, right? So an AI is only as smart as the information it has. So what students, are going to be creating and discovering and researching is not even there yet. It's not part of that. If it's there, it's going to be them that puts it there. So, right. And so I think that there are really amazing opportunities for educators to find ways to meet students where they are. And I've been saying this since prior to technology being in classrooms. Because for a long time, and you might not remember this, but we used to have special schools that were named whatever school of technology, or that was where the kids went who were interested. Technology is embedded in every single thing that you do every day. And I asked the question, when was the last time that you looked in an encyclopedia for information, right? That's just not how, and we're doing a disservice to our students to not help them navigate the tools that are in front of them. And that means that teachers and school communities, we have to be students as well. We have to be learners and adaptive as well in order to meet our students where they are. And it's really important to that end that we have really fresh young teachers who are part of that language, who are part of that world, who can help older, more veteran teachers who maybe aren't so savvy in this new world. And that was the case when we went to having laptops and iPads in the classroom. That was the same exact conversation. Oh gosh, how are we going to do this? And we have to, right? It's really just about meeting students where they are. And it doesn't matter if it was back in the day when we had chalkboards and, chalk, and we gave each student a chalkboard with chalk, right? And it's the same thing. It's just different. And change is hard and it's scary. And I'll say it again, public education is the underpinning of our democracy. If we want to keep our democracy, we have to help our students learn how to navigate the world in a way that helps them be successful. Because there's a lot of opportunity to be drawn into conflict and chaos and controversy, especially now. And, our students need to be critical thinkers and creative, and communication includes technology. And they need to be prepared to go out into the world and navigate those places and make it better and safer for everyone. That's on them, right?
I think kind of what I'm getting from your saying of this is, in school we teach to adapt, and students wanting to become teachers knowing that the technology they have now 20 years into their career is going to look very different. I remember 20 years ago when I was in first grade, we went to the computer lab at the library, and we all had a big computer and learned how to do our typing. And by the end of elementary school, one classroom had a smart board, and it was the big thing. And then in high school we started having a classroom set of Chromebooks.
Yep.
And computer labs weren't a thing anymore. And then now, 10 years after that, how much it has changed. And it's just whatever technology we have at the moment is the big thing. Yep. But it's going to keep adapting every single year. So of having the mindset of just don't be afraid to adapt and learn. And the resources and technology that are here now are what students need to know, because that's what the rest of the world is going to be using, but knowing that this isn't permanent, it's going to keep changing throughout your entire career.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. All of that. And reputable sources. I mean, this is the thing. I think this is where AI, there's so many issues with reputable sources and where is this information that you're getting coming from? And to use that to your advantage, right? You always have to check your sources and cite your sources, and making sure that they're reputable is part of critical thinking. It's not easy, as you can see in the world around us. I mean, no one is perfect, and it takes time and effort to really decipher information. And it's funny sometimes when I hear, every generation, there's going to be someone who says, oh, that generation, they're lazy. They don't know. They don't know what we had to go through. And it's a totally different mindset, in that our kids are deciphering thousands and thousands of data points every single day, right? Pieces of information are coming at them in rapid fire ways, and they're really savvy at compartmentalizing and figuring out ways to do things that, right, based on new information that they're receiving every day. So it's really, we as educators, we're lifelong students, I believe. It's a lot of why I think many of us become teachers is because we love school so much, right? And we're lifelong learners. And the conversation around that you just explained, like that timeline of, technology that in your lifetime, every single time there was that change, the same conversation happened, right? It's just that AI is it's like, we don't know.
Yeah. It's a bigger change from computer lab to classroom set of Chromebooks.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And, my experience with technology is very deep. When I was born, my father was working at the University of Illinois in Champaign-Urbana on what is now the internet. It was the first supercomputer. And he was one of those early 30-year-olds wearing the white shirts with the black horn rimmed glasses with the pencil pocket protectors, working on this thing that he would say, we have no idea how the world's going to change. And one of my earliest memories is going to his office, and there was a big television screen on the wall with an old school telephone receiver. And because the internet used to be through telephone lines. And he told me to pick up the phone and talk into the receiver. And as I was talking, I was 3 or 4, so I could, differentiate the words at least. And as I was talking, the words were printing on the screen. He was like, okay, so this is the beginning. And I've always had a computer in my house, and my transition with technology is like yours. It's been a tourist, not a native to technology. You're a native, and everybody past you is a native to technology. I'm just a tourist.
Do you have any final advice for both our teachers who teach education pathways to encourage their students to be teachers, and our students in the classrooms today wondering if this is the career for them, of where to go, and maybe just an inspiring message for them all for the future of education.
The magic of teaching happens when we collaborate with each other, because it's so inspiring to be around others who share your passion. And the great thing about schools is that there's lots of people who have a passion for being around kids and educating, and also their subject matter. And so, the best advice I can give anyone is that I believe, and I'm just speaking for myself, not the CDE, that the secret to a happy life is to find something that you love to do and figure out a way to get paid for it. But the most important thing in life is perseverance. Because anything like a teaching credential or a PPS credential, which is what you would need to have to be a mental health school counselor, a peer pupil services credential, it takes an effort. It takes motivation and drive and the willingness to complete a credential process that at sometimes can feel daunting, but really there's so much support and love for teachers and for the profession. It's, when you tell someone that you're going to school to be a teacher, I guarantee you there's a smile on that person's face, right? And that also, it's a noble career. It is the most noble profession to be that force of knowledge and to be that change that you wish to see in the world. It's a really joyful way to spend a career. But to the end of finding your passion, for example, when I talked about a career CT academies and pathways, and how in 2019 there were about 30,000 students in education pathways. But some of the other numbers that I can tell you are, for example, in the arts and media and entertainment academies and pathways, right now there are over 260,000 students in California that are part of the arts and media and entertainment pathway. I would imagine many of them would love to be an art or music teacher, right? Mm-hmm. And so if you're in a different pathway or an academy, there are pathways to teaching in that program or in that content area. So we have all kinds of need. Again, math and science and special education are always in the highest demand. And then, as I mentioned, arts and music. But really, it's about finding your passion. There are many different ways to finding your way into a credential program. But it's really about the joy of teaching and being around children and wanting to see a better future that really must be the underpinning of what you do, because it is, as I'm sure everyone understands, it is a difficult profession, but so are other professions very difficult, right? And there are challenges, but being in the classroom and seeing that those sparks fly with kids and really sharing your passion and your love for learning is contagious, and what we need in classrooms today to be really reflective, both in diversity and with regard to inclusion and equity, a teaching and school community workforce that reflects the demographics of the students that we teach is just really important. And multilingual, we don't want to forget that.
Well, thank you, Karen, so much for joining us on this episode and sharing so much about the education opportunities and careers in education that there are for our students. This episode wraps up season 1 of Elevate FCS, so thank you, Karen, for ending us on such a high note. For our listeners, stay tuned next fall for our next episode and season 2 of Elevate FCS as we learn more about opportunities for FCS teachers and students and industry trends.